Hi, my name is Chris Beals. The images that we were just looking at were from my senior art project, Aves in Perspective. And to me, it linked two different worlds together. I had an interest in science, I had an interest in art. There wasn't really a clear connection in between art and biology, but I'm double majored in both anyway. I never had a plan for what I was going to do with these majors. I just wanted to study them. And so I was thinking about our course readings and how they relate to what I was doing back then and what I currently do, and maybe the evolution of what I'm interested in, how that has changed through time. In the Calliope Sisters reading, we learned about what art is. We learned about what attributes that we associate with art. We learn about the creativity of art, that it evolves, that it's culturally significant, that it evokes some sort of emotion. We also read about Francis Bacon, how he said that when we want to make an image, we want to make it look right, but also we want it to evoke some sort of emotion, some sort of sensation. So I started thinking about what I was doing 25 years ago when I was painting these images of birds and what I currently do and the subject matter that I choose, the style perhaps that has changed through time. So that's what I'm going to explore with this project. So let's look at a few more images. After I graduated from Mercer, I continued to live in Macon. In fact, I lived just across the street in one of the historic neighborhoods across from Mercer. And my mentor, who I had while I was at Mercer, set up a place behind a chalkboard in the drawing room in the art building. So I would go behind that chalkboard, and I would paint whatever I saw most evenings. And I saw things like the canvas, the easel, the stool, and this cubist type of form, the shelves of paints and jars, the desks around me. And this translated to things that I saw also within my own house, the watering jar, the chair and plant, the lamp next to my bed, just objects that were of interest to me. Post-graduation, painting these images, painting the still lifes, the objects around me with harsh black lines, delineating the space around them. And sometimes there's a cubism type of element to them. But I was trying to explore all these different style types and just things that I was really interested in. Again, it's about the shape, it's about the color, it's about the objects in the space that was more interesting to me than most anything else. But I was painting things that were around me. Things that I found around me were from the studio or perhaps in my room. Chair, cactus fern, this water jug that I bought at an art show. And then I found myself in a very strange place where I returned back to the original idea where I was painting objects that filled up the whole canvas. And so in the next few images that we'll see, I call it the rose phase. I'm not really sure if there's a better name for it. I filled up canvases with roses. Even though there's a looseness to the still lifes that I did, I went over and over and over these paintings. A single painting would last hours, always in oils because that was my primary medium. The rose paintings also took hours, but I didn't go over them and over them. Each rose would take an hour and a half to 2 hours to paint. The largest of the paintings being something like a 5x3 painting, the smallest one 2x2. So these rose paintings appeal to the sense of defined nature, of exactness, of overlapping objects with colors and shapes, and they were very, very tedious. I think I did 10, maybe 11 different of these paintings, some of which I sold, some of which are still in my possession. But it almost was this pursuit that caused me not to paint after I was done with them. I found myself not even interested in art for several years. It was a Saturday, I remember that. On the way home from work, we were both tutoring at Sylvan Learning Center, the wife and I. And on the way home, I said, let's stop at PetSmart, which we did, and they had an adoption day. I didn't know that. And the only dog not jumping up and yapping and trying to get out of its little enclosure was this one beagle hound. And I said, well, let's get that one. So we brought Lucy home. She jumped up on the couch, and I jokingly say that she didn't move for about 10 years later. But she lived up with us for about a decade or so, and I guess it re-energized my art because I found myself painting Lucy, painting landscapes, painting Lucy, painting landscapes. It was very easy to paint Lucy because she didn't move a whole lot. I didn't even have to take a photo of her. I could just sit there and sketch her. She was a very lazy beagle. And even though I'm not a hunter, I've had just about every beagle, basset, foxhound type of hunting dog that you could possibly imagine. I had a pointer at one time. But it's only Lucy that ever made her way into any of my paintings, which I find very interesting. And so it was the love of my life. Okay, the second love of my life. The wife is my first love. But the second love of my life that started to reinvigorate my interest in art. With the Lucy paintings, I found it very easy to steal away some time to paint some paintings, not just the Lucy paintings, but landscapes that were more loose, not quite so rigid as the paintings I had painted years ago. These paintings were easy to do, and I didn't find myself painting over them multiple times to get the lines and the shapes just right. And I think that's what led me to the next set of paintings. When I was in my early 30s, we had our firstborn. It wasn't until a couple of kids later, my thirdborn, I started noticing the poses, noticing the shapes, noticing him when he was sitting there digging in the ground or playing with a truck or all the different things that children do. And even though I had had 2 children before him, I started taking a lot of photos of him. Don't tell my firstborn, but I probably have more photos of the thirdborn than I do the first one. We have a 4th child too, all boys, and it's the 3rd and the 4th one that have started making their way into my paintings. So my subject matter has changed. I no longer paint dogs anymore. And also the style has changed too. That loose style that I had adopted with the landscapes I'd done earlier has changed into a form such that my child paintings aren't quite so loose, but they're not nearly as rigid as the rose paintings had been. And I wonder if that relates to my disciplined style too. With the firstborn, like many parents, I was pretty strict with. With the second one, we relaxed quite a lot. And with the thirdborn, we just kind of let him do whatever, really. And the fourthborn, oh, well, he is quite spoiled. So with the 3rd and the 4th one, watching them digging in the sand, playing with their toys, it just became very interesting to me. So I took a lot of photos and I started painting him. And so I hope you enjoy these next few images. So this style that I had adopted when painting the child paintings, the child reading in the book or playing with the toy or sitting at the top of the stairs, all these paintings have this kind of similar style to them with a quick flick of the wrist and the short brush strokes. And I saw that starting to creep into my landscape paintings as well. Landscape paintings with the bright sun, the radium springs in Albany, Georgia, the flowers from my flower garden, all of these seem to have in common the same type of style that I had adopted with the child paintings, which was not intentional. One of our last readings, the core of art, there is a resemblance that we learn about between art and play. That play allows us to be extra, allows us to utilize imagination. And art does that too. Art allows us to mold feelings, to elicit emotion, to manipulate audiences, to feel the things that we're trying to express in this work. And so like play, art uses and expresses the imagination. It allows us to show others and ourselves what is important to us. And so what has my art become but an expression of what is important to me?